we should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
Oh no, the fog came in much faster than I expected. Carol, be sure you are buckled up. We might be having to move in and out of the lanes quick, so be ready for shake-ups. The density of these fronts is hard to determine. There's no stopping now, so if you have to go, we should have done that before we got on the intergalactic highway.
Don't worry about that, Mommy. I went before we left home. Do you want me to get out some coffee for you, or maybe a sandwich? I've got the picnic basket in the front seat mate if you want anything.
That's sweet of you to ask, but not just yet. I'll need all my concentration to maneuver around these fog banks. Let's get some music on the radio to keep our befuddled minds off the nerve-wracking situation we're in right now, shall we, young lady?
Something else you do, right?
And now the news. Today our Prime Minister and President announced that all male slaves and children will be required to address their mistresses and guardians as Your Highness upon their arrival from work each night. Any slave adult or child will be severely beaten or spanked if the appropriate respect is not shown to their female master. Here in Feminist Corners, the weather has been very overcast with low clouds obscuring our beautiful city skyline. Many persons coming in on the main freeway have been calling into the station, advising that visibility within the city limits are less than 1 mile in some areas. Public awareness is still high of the impending plague that has ravaged our world. Called coronavirus, this plague is anything but a virus, as it is targeting women of all ages and ethnic groups. For some reason, this plague does not affect the male populace, making many a woman outraged that a vaccine hasn't been found as yet to combat this dilemma affecting every person on this planet. Feminist Corners Hospital has seen a marked increase in the number of emergency room visits. The intensive care unit rooms are at capacity. Authorities are telling everyone not to flood the hospitals for fear of a loss from vital supplies we need to treat the persons already infected. Male slaves and children are, of course, refused any treatment. If any are found in the hospital, they are arrested for trespassing and taken to the Incarceration Detention Center for punishment and retraining. If a woman is found helping a male slave or child to gain entrance to the hospital, they are quarantined for 5 weeks in their own homes for evaluation and study. President Abrams has said categorically, "We are stronger than any man and we will overcome this plague with feminine know-how and stamina to whip any slave or child who tries to revolt against their masters." Law enforcement has an emergency number for anyone suspected of helping a male slave to instigate any revolts. Turn in any woman you know who might be aiding and abetting a male to commit a civil or theological backlash towards the general population. That number is 2 3 3 5 1 8 9 1 1. In other news, children's fashions continue to intrigue women with their incredible ability to color match their school uniforms. Boys, not that we care about them, are now required to wear a plaid red skirt to school and white blouse. According to conformity officials, this color combination was chosen as the direct result of an earthing male child who was seen in feminist corners on numerous occasions, only to disappear before he could be apprehended and paddled for subversion. Girls are always encouraged to slap down their little brothers and degrade any male they see. As to clothing, they can wear whatever suits them. Our socialist system of conformity is strictly your duty as the female role model to your daughter. The male is to be restrained, beaten as needed, and child paddled until they come under complete subjection to their guardian or master. Anyone choosing to teleport into the city from outside this zone are encouraged to advise control of any delays to help in the coordination of smooth transfers. Many women are choosing to drive the old-fashioned way with the combustion engine vehicles our grandmothers used to drive some 3,000 years ago. These old classics are making a comeback in record time, according to the Feminine Automobile Association. Do you remember the old Beetle, a classic 4-cylinder model with an engine sound like no one has ever heard before? They are costing most drivers a hefty sum to keep on the roads today. They used leaded gasoline, a kind of fossil fuel that was the only means of transportation in those days. Nostalgia shops are popping up everywhere, offering this rare and relatively accessible means to brag and flaunt your superiority on the highways over any other woman who wants to use this means of fun to get around feminist corners. Costing approximately 800 million dinar, they will make the current automakers blush to something close to these cars again. In our researching this vehicle, the company name was Volkswagen. They built this model of Beetle for almost 200 years before going to the ion-powered vehicles we now use as commonplace transporters.
I found a picture of him in my history book, Mommy. He was blonde-headed, was supposedly from Earth, and was always seen in a red plaid skirt, black blouse with a plaid sash around his shoulders. I read about him at the library too. He was about 4 years old when he was first seen, and they still don't know how he's able to get around from place to place, since Earthlings don't have the technology we do to transport from one place to another instantaneously. Maybe the video will be doing an overview of him tonight after we get home. I'd like to see that if he will let me. I wonder, what are his people like on Earth? Our teachers say they are totally upside down. The men and boys on their planet wears the slacks and the girls wear the skirts and dresses. That's bizarre. They also have learned from Earth transmissions that they have a kind of gender that's both male and female. They call themselves bisexuals or transgenders. Most are of our planet never developed to that mutant philosophy, Mommy. From your face, you don't like me talking about this, so I won't anymore.
I'm not mad at you, honey. I have a confession to tell you. That little boy you have been talking about, I was his guardian. You were in school training then, far away from home, and this small boy appeared in my house. He would materialize, and then after a week, a day, 3 months, he would just disappear again. I called the police and they just couldn't figure out what was happening. I did research too about this little boy. His name is Jason Mackridge. In some high secure areas of the library, I was able to find notes of ancient leaders who saw a child who matched Jason's description. He would appear in a white columbine most times, and then again in a plaid kilt. That's what he called it. Boys in a country called Scotland are allowed, though not all the time, to wear a pleated skirt that shows various colors of what his people's society identified themselves with. The kilt represented a very important identification between clans whenever they would fight each other over lands they wanted to conquer. He was from their future when civilization had developed above this way of life. He was being transported to our planet by a time machine that could manipulate the person in the chamber by space, time, or dimensional manipulation of the space-time continuum. I just couldn't understand all the ins and outs of it, so I just gave up trying to learn anything else, Carol.
How long ago, Mommy, did all this happen? Could he return again, maybe at that same age you saw him? The few pictures of him are really cute. That kilt made he look 4 feet high.
I'd give up trying to find him, Carol. He was a sweet child, but someone else was manipulating his life from that planet, jerking him from our world back to his and then here again. That's not living. That's being a test subject. I think you should look for a local boy who totally controlled, Carol. We don't need to have to re-educate this child every time he shows up from Earth. That's counterproductive. One other thing I didn't tell you is he arrived on our planet inside a spacecraft. There were 3 men with him. When the authorities arrived, they took the men away. What happened to them is still the mystery. Little Jason was first paddled for wearing women's clothing on our planet. You know the law about that. Then he was taken for retraining, which he did somewhat good, but they didn't see enough conformity to our lifestyles, so they gave him a chance to straighten out, but he didn't. Snook away and ended up with me after being found by a police officer. That was 3 years ago, but what you won't believe, Carol, is that he never ages. He's still the same 4-year-old boy. He must have immortality because he never ages. One day when those time shifts happen and the machine moves him either ahead in time or back thousands of years. Here's a picture of him I've kept in my purse. He's cute, but remember, Carol, he's a boy and they are never allowed to be individuals. We are unique as a culture, having full control of men and boys, but we weren't always like that, Carol. Men and boys some 4,000 years ago were equal, if you can believe that or not. We've had to fight as women for centuries to suppress thoughts in men, and usually paddling the male children have always been enough to manipulate their ideals. We have this whole thing in our hands as women and girls, Carol. Let's keep this whole thing in perspective.
That's an Earthling, Mommy. They look just like any boy. I thought he'd be different looking, but he's no different than any other boy I've seen. Why is he holding his bottom like that and has that goofy looking face? You must have had to paddle him more than the average boy has to be punished. That makes sense. Earthlings wouldn't know anything about our lifestyles here. This must be an old picture. The dime looks totally different now.
Yes, he's been placed with several guardians over the years. This will sound hard to believe, but Jason has been with different guardians for almost 100 years. Because of this time machine he talked about, he would appear and be placed with one guardian in one decade, disappear a few months after and then reappear sometimes in another decade. This happened at least 10 different times during the past century that we know of. He's more than 150 years old, Carol. At least in the period of time we saw him and placed him. This is why they believe his presence in our world changed so many different things that they'll probably never know how many events he witnessed or even changed in history. This is another reason why males are suppressed, perhaps because of his influence on the population over the centuries. I still find it mind-boggling to think about the possibilities he's altered because of the appearances. For him, all of this could be maybe months or weeks, but to us it's millenniums of time. Here's another thought to ponder, Carol. How many other children might there be who are considered orphans but are in fact Earthlings who could also be among us? This could be an invasion from Earth, to alter our evolution of development, perhaps.
Please, Mommy, don't tell me anymore. I'm already scared of the possibility an Earthling might be in my class at school. What if they're watching, to see how we think and act? Then they'll try something awful like taking us over or replacing us with duplicates maybe.
Ha ha ha, Carol. That's ridiculous. Earthlings have a lower IQ to even our race. They might have the ability to move through time and space, but they don't have the ability to take over anyone. How do I know that? Because we watch their broadcasts from Earth and we know they fascinate our scientific curiosity. We learn so much about our lives from them that we advance our technology by learning from their mistakes. It's laughable to think they could be superior to our world or our people. Keep your eye open for the turn-off. We're near our exit to leave the highway. Then we'll be going to our own subdivision outside the limits of the city. Hand me one of those sandwiches you mentioned. I'm really getting hungry now that I've turned that little yarn on you. I've enjoyed the trip in this classic bug. We learned how to build these from the Earthlings too. You know that, Carol? They broadcast so much about their knowledge, we don't even have to think sometimes. Just copy, record, and replicate their work. They're never happy with what they create, even their humanoid form of life. They kill their children as we do, but not on the basis of gender or sex. They decide who lives and who dies based on necessity. Their women have the philosophy that only women count, as we do. That at least is the right direction to take, but many other things about Earth make no sense. One is that women don't wear the pants in the family, only their males do.
Mommy, will our society ever journey into space as these Earthlings already have today? I don't mean advanced technology to make theirs, but make superior spacecraft that could bring back specimen study, maybe? I'd love to see a humanoid girl and boy, to understand their relationships to each other at a young age. I bet our scientists haven't even thought about that side of the equation on humanity. That's why their adults are most likely unhappy. One sex or the other dominates the other as they grow older and then the relationship fails. Oh, there's the exit now. Watch out, Mommy. There's a boy in the median to the left. This fog is bad here at the lake's edge. Be careful.
Carol, stop looking at that boy's dress hem and watch my hand smack your bottom. Can't you think of anything but that Earthling boy? I know you're obsessed now. No more history on Earth for you anymore, young lady.
Oh ups, I didn't think you noticed. Oh well, we're still the masters of the male eye, aren't we, Mommy? I promise, Mommy. No more looking at boys' dresses ever. That's smart.
TV.
Where my hobbits at? Play Lord of the Rings.
Play my Straight Out of the Shire playlist.
I want to see the king. Find LeBron.
Search more cartoons.
Play The Last OG.
Take me to the streets. Play Sesame Street.
Me want more cookies.
ممران دقنيش
قديش عمرها؟
4 سنين.
Find the things you love with the voice command. Introducing AT&T TV with live TV and access to streaming apps. Plug in and watch with easy self-setup. Shipped directly to you.
They've reported from around the world, challenged the powerful, and they bring all of this to every story that breaks.
We've got breaking news, and it's good news.
And touches your heart.
How do you even say thank you? Thank you is not big enough.
I made this.
Stunned survivors.
peculiar thing about this.
You didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen. You didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.